First thing I want to do is look at just ways that you can sketch and do really quick self-portraits. So I call it fast portrait sketches. So I made this between last week and this week. And it was the reason why I did this was because I was still getting questions about like, I don't understand, how can I do a drawing in 30 seconds? Like that's a self-portrait. There's lots of different ways to do it. So ink, pencil, digital, like there's so many ways you can do this. Could be paint, and it could be like you're just being very interpretive. Maybe you're being very like a lot of lines. It could be a lot of lines. But you can see these are all very, very different. They're all very fast. Like some of them are like a little bit more involved. Like this one for sure took more than 30 seconds, but a lot of these are just really straightforward and simple. Next step then is to think in terms of white icons. So how can you turn your face or your self-portrait, how can you turn that into like basically white on black? So I called this simplified portrait white figure and black ground. And I found a few here that seem to fit this look. Some of them are more realistic. They look like they're actually photographs that have just been put through a filter. But then there's other ones that are more interesting and more kind of cartoony, okay? More interpreted. So basically the idea is download the serifs or sans serif. So these files, so over here you can download. So in Illustrator, I would actually just open this up. So I'm gonna, let's see. I downloaded them here. So let's look at this one. Rather than double clicking, I'm gonna right click it, open with Adobe Illustrator. So I'm using my black arrow over here. What that does is when I click on a letter, it selects the entire letter. The white arrow, it might just select part of it. And I'll show you what that looks like. If I just select part of a letter and then drag it, now I'm distorting the letter. So I don't want to do that. So I'll use the black arrow. I'm going to use, I'll grab the K. So I'm basically going to show you what Kit did for his in-class exercise. So I'm going to show you this, but I'm doing it digitally. So, but I'm also going to show you how I can take that icon and then turn it into vector shapes. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to make a new file. So I hit Command N, or if I go File, New, and I'm going to make it 8 by 10 CMYK. That's the important part. Create. Copied this. Copy. And now I'm going in this one, I'm going to hit paste. And I want to make sure it's nice and big. So that's pretty good. And by the way, I want you to think about having space around the edges. Like, so have a margin. I'm going to lock this because I don't want this to move. I am going to move it over a little bit though, because I feel like visually it needs to be over this way just a bit. So this feels a little bit more balanced with that. I'm going to lock the layer. I'm going to make a new layer down here. So, and if you can't find layers, just go into help, type layer. Well, my computer's thinking. Maybe it's because I have so much stuff open. But if you type layer in help, like let's say I just don't know where it is, it'll show you. So it shows here it's window layers. So I'm going to create a new layer. If I go in to this file, this was what Kit had made. So this was Kit's icon. So this was the cutout paper. And I was just thinking, why don't I just trace it? Why don't I make this into a vector shape? So I actually put it into Photoshop because this has, if this had a black background, it would be a lot easier. So if you want to follow along with this, the easiest thing to do is make sure that you photograph it with a black background. That'll make it easier to distinguish black from the white icon. So what I did was I actually did this. I made it into, like, I heightened the contrast in Photoshop. So it looks weird, but it'll work. So here's what I do is I just drag this thing that I made into Illustrator. So I can actually turn off the layer underneath it for now. But what I can do here is I'm going to go to Window, Image Trace, and it pops up over here. And I'm going to hit Advanced because I want to have more options here. So what I'm going to do is hit black and white. I want black and white mode. By the way, you notice it is selected. And I'm actually going to hit Ignore Color and Ignore White. Now, if I want to see what this looks like, I have to hit Preview. So I'll hit Preview. And there you go. It's actually made a preview for me. Actually, I'm going to get Ignore. I want it to ignore the black. So I want it to be a white icon. Now, it disappeared. Why did it do that? I hit Ignore Color. So it's showing me a white thing here. If I move it off, you can see it's actually created a white shape here. Okay, it's actually traced this. So if I hit get off of preview, hit trace, it will trace this. Now you can make adjustments here to make, and maybe it'll make a difference. I don't know. It's really just, sometimes you just have to like experiment with these things and see what works. But I'm just going to say that's fine. I'll hit trace. And expand. So there's a little thing up here that says expand. I'll expand. Okay, so what it's done is there's extra little bits in that picture and it's turned those all into vector as well. So I'm going to hit object ungroup because what it's done is it's grouped everything. And I'm just going to select it, delete. I'm going to delete all this stuff too. So what I'm left with is a white icon. Now, I can fix that because it looks like there's some stuff going on here that I'd probably want to fix, like these things here. But it's turned this whole thing into vector. So this is a really easy way to make your scan or photo into a vector icon. So now I'm going to hit Command 0, go back here. And in layers, now I can bring back my K. So it was hidden, bring it back. And now I can bring my icon onto it. And you can see because it's above it, it doesn't, I'm not messing with the K at all. So, and I think what I'll do is, can I flip it? I want to flip this. Yeah, reflect tool. So reflect tool lets me flip it and I'm going to hit shift to make sure it stays. There we go. And now I can kind of play around with it. So this is kind of like how you can do this digitally, but you could do the in-class exercise digitally, but it's also like, you might as well, it's just so easy to do this stage. Like when you're actually trying to figure out what your final icon and letter is going to look like, to do it like this. It's super easy. So now it's just a matter of like trying to find that right combination. Okay, so maybe more up like that is better. And what I'm trying to do, the whole purpose of this is that I want to break that edge of the K in as many places as I can. And because this is vector, now I can actually take these points and drag them down. So maybe I could do something like that. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. There's one other way that you can do this. Let's say I drag the icon in again, or the photo of the icon. Okay. What I'm going to do is lock that, make a new layer on top of that. And now I can trace all these parts. So using the pen tool, and I'm going to make sure that it's a color I can see. So I'm going to click on this and let's make it pink so it'll really show up. Now, using the pen tool is tricky. You kind of have to just experiment with it. There are lots of tutorials that show you how to do it. where you're going to find is making shapes. It's just like the tutorial I showed you for the first assignment. When you're using the pen tool, you just have to experiment with it. So I'll click here. When I drag it, it makes it smoother, like it smooths it out. So this is more like imperfect. So what I'm showing you now is a way to kind of like make the shapes individually. It's a little more time consuming, but it achieves the same thing. So now I've traced the eyebrow. You can see that it's not perfect, and I can adjust it to make sure it is exactly what the cutout was. But that's essentially it. Yeah, so I would just keep going with that until I actually traced the whole thing.